Hello indie game fans, it's Spooky Day itself, so here's wishing you a happy Halloween. I'm constantly amazed at the versatility of pixel art, so here are the top 10 horror games using that precise art style. Developer DYA Games is known for their pixel art, with all their games having quite the signature look, and Viviette is their most recent title. This is a horror adventure game where you explore a creepy mansion, finding items, solving puzzles, while avoiding the horrific monster chasing after you, and seems a little Resident Evil 1 inspired in some places. The exploration seems open-ended enough, which makes it quite an interesting experience, and certainly one for horror fans. Siblings-related horror stories are particularly creepy and compelling since there's an element of familial ties, with My Big Sister harnessing this very well. While it does look cute and does not have your usual jump scares and such, the atmosphere and the creepy implications of the story does chill you to the bone. Play as a 12-year-old girl who is kidnapped along with her sister, and they must somehow find their way home. Pretty cheap as well, and worth the money in my opinion. A classic indie game in the genre is the Count Lucanor, which seems pretty cute on the surface, but hides a darker, more disturbing tale. Inspired by Zelda and Silent Hill of all things, this manages to creep me out despite the pixel art, with some disturbing and grotesque imagery as you explore this castle. It's more adventure game-like in nature, with NPCs to talk to, puzzles to solve, and even stealth elements as you hide from enemies, with an interesting horror fairy tale motif that is worth experiencing. The developer of DISTRAINT 2 is known for horror, with this being the must-play sequel to the first game from 2015. It's a psychological horror title about a man who sold his humanity for his career, with the signature character designs and some really creepy encounters. Speaking of familiar ties, Mad Father is an RPG Maker title, but has some creepy implications, where you play as a young girl who, on the anniversary of her mother's death, reflects on the past and happier times. She wakes up in the middle of the night and finds herself in a nightmare with corpses littering the house, where your father appears to be conducting some dark experiments in the basement. Originally released in 2012, but being put on Steam in 2016, this is from a Japanese developer, and they sure know their horror. One of the classic pixel art horror titles is Lone Survivor, a survival horror game where you must escape a city ravaged by disease and the subsequent zombies and crazy people that resulted from that. It is played from a side-scrolling perspective where you do really have choices, from finding other survivors, not firing a single bullet, or even sustaining yourself on drugs to keep you going. Multiple endings encourage different playthroughs, and if you're a fan of indies and want to know their history, this is essential playing. The Last Door and its sequel are classically designed low-res point-and-click adventure games, but do not be fooled, they are really creepy and horrific in the right places. You are exploring Victorian England, where something ancient and evil is awakening, where our protagonist receives a cryptic letter from his old schoolmate, which leads him to an abandoned manor. In hindsight, it is no surprise that the developer who made something as twisted as this went on to make the stunning action platformer Blasphemous, with that being in a different setting, but with both having some religious overtones. If you enjoyed Blasphemous, I would highly recommend you go back to check this out, even if point-and-click adventure is generally not your thing. A classic entry is Yume Nikki, being made available on Steam in 2018, where you play as a shut-in who is able to traverse to a dark dreamscape when she falls asleep. Again, not so much in-your-face horror, but more of a creepy, unsettling experience. This has its legion of fans and is worth a try for the entry price of free. Developer Baroque Decay goes 2 for 2 with the first drop survival horror title, Yuppie Psycho, recently upgraded for free to the Executive Edition, adding more content. You play as a young man hired to join Sintra Corp, a massive organization where you seem to be massively underqualified for your job. However, it soon becomes clear that you have been hired to kill the witch, a mysterious entity that granted the company its success but has returned years later to torment and haunt the building. Now that working from home is a thing, I guess we can all appreciate how much of a strange concept the office is, and this blows it up to the nth degree. Really grotesque monster designs? This is one to get. That's a bit of a controversial pick, but World of Horror, still in early access, has been one of the best horror games to use pixel art, and is even more impressive that it is 1-bit. A roguelite RPG with some seriously disturbing tales, like a man chopping up and sewing together the bodies of fish and women to make mermaids. The monster designs in this are seriously creepy and would give you nightmares, taking the #1 spot. To see more of the big picture, check out these awesome videos, and I will see you after the jump.